4 people in our teams. And these are some learning objectives. Here are some key ideas that we must remember after learning this chapter. So first, we will define the nature and the functions of communications in our life.
So first, what is communications? Basically, communication is just the transfer and understanding of meaning. So transfers mean that the message will receive in a form that can be interpreted by the receiver, and understanding the message is not the same as the receiver agreeing with the message. So this is the two types of communication. The first one is interpersonal communications. This is the communications between two or more people. And the second type is organizational communications. So this one is all the patterns, networks, and the systems of communication within an organization. These are 4 types to make an effective communications. The first one that we have to control. Controls mean formal and informal communication act to control individuals' behaviors in organizations. The second one is motivations. This means communications clarify for employees what is to be done, how well they have done it, and what can be done to improve performance. The third one is emotional impressions. This is the social interactions in the form of work group communications, provides a way for employees to express themselves. And the last one is informations. So individuals and work group need information to make decisions or to do their work. What is the method for interpersonal communications? So we have two main methods. The first one is message. Message is a purpose to be conveyed. We have 3 other kinds of message. The first one is encoding. This is converting a message into symbol. The second one is channel. This is the medium a message travel along. And the last one is decoding. So this means retranslating a sender message. And the second type, the second method is that communications process. So we see that this is the interpersonal communications process. So communication process is the 7 elements involved in transferring meaning from one person to another. So we have other special kind of communications, that is nonverbal communications. This is the communication transmitted without words using some body language and some gesture. So let's look at this video to find out what is non-verbal communication.
What can I get started for you today?
Express yourself.
What size? All right. 3 venti lattes. Would you care for a pastry? No? Oh, mocha. 3 mocha lattes. Oof. Double chocolate chip muffin. Yum.
Express yourself.
You want 3 Paul McCartney CDs. Awesome. You know, I love the Beatles. They are my life. So American.
Whatever you do.
Assassination. Abraham Lincoln. You, me, gun, shoot. 3 shots. I know, I'm a little slow today. All right, so 3 lattes, 3 mochas, double chocolate chip muffin, and 3 shots. No assassinations. Oh, and 3 Paul McCartney CDs. That's gonna be 6812.
Now we will move to the next part, that is comparisons of communication method. So this is the comparison table between the different communication method in our business life. So now we will find out the barriers in the communications. So the first one is filtering. Filtering is the deliberate manipulations of information to make it appear more favorable to the receiver. And the next one is information overlap. So in this occurs when information exists our processing capacity. And the last barrier is jargon. So I think this is the most popular. Jargon is the specialized terminology or technical language that members of a group use to communications among themselves. So how can we overcome that three barriers? So we have some solutions. The first one is simplify the language. That is, we consider the audience to whom the message is direct and tailor the language to them. The second solution is that we use the feedback. So we will ask questions about a message to determine whether it was received and understood as intended. And the last solution is that we have an active listening, and this solution is the most important because active listening is the listening for full meaning without making premature judgment or interpretations. Active listening is enhanced by developing empathy with the sender. That is by putting yourself in the sender positions. This is some note that we must remember to have an effective active listening, like we have to avoid distracting action or gesture, ask questions to make sure that we clearly understand the questions, or we don't interrupt the people who are sending the message for us.
Above 4 is about organizational communication.
First one is the formal communication. Is the communication that takes place within prescribed organizational work arrangements. The second one is informal communication. Is communication that is not defined by the organization structure hierarchy. And we have the direction of communication. Town hall meeting is an informal public meeting where information can be relayed, issues can be discussed, or just a way to bring employees together to celebrate accomplishments. The downward communication is the communication that flows downward from a manager to employees. And in the opposite, upward communication is the communication that flows upward from employees to manager. And we have the lateral communication is the communication that takes place among any employees on the same organizational level. And the diagonal communication is the communication that cuts across work areas and organizational levels. And we have the organizational communication network. It's the variety of patterns of vertical and horizontal flows of organizational communication. The grapevine is the informal organizational communication network. And we have some networks of communication here, like the Shane network is moderate, high in accuracy, moderate in emotion of leader, moderate in member satisfaction, while the wheel is fast and high in accuracy, high in emotion of leader, and low in member satisfaction. All channel network is fast and moderate in accuracy. It doesn't have any emotion of leader and also high member satisfaction. An open workplace is workplace with few physical barriers and enclosures. In part 5, we're going to talk about information and communication technology. And we have a network system. In a network system, an organization computers are linked. Organizational members can communicate with each other and tap into information, whether they down the hall, across town, or halfway across the world. And wireless capabilities is the wireless communication technology has the ability to improve work for managers and employees. We have the communication issues. The first one is managing communication in an internet world. We will have the legal and security issues. which is inappropriate use of company email and instant messaging, loss of confidential and proprietary information due to inadvertent or deliberate dissemination or to hackers. And we have the lack of personal interaction is being connected is not the same as face-to-face contact, and difficulties will occur in achieving understanding and cooperation in virtual environments. And we have the communication and customer service. Communication effectively with customer will require recognize the three components of the customer service delivery process. The first one is the customer, the service organization, the service provider. And the organization needs to develop a strong service control focused on the personalization of service to each customer. They need to listen and respond to the customer, provide access to needed service information. And in today's challenging environment, companies need to get input from their employees. So they come up with the suggestions boxes is managers do business in the world today where you can't afford to ignore such potential valuable information. And we have some of the solution to know about the employees' input matters, like we can hold down hall meeting where information is shared and input solicited, or we can provide information about what's going on, good and bad, investing in training so that employees see how they impact the customer experience, analyze problems together like manager and employees, and make it easy for employees to give input by setting up different ways for them to do, like they can do the online suggestion box and pre-printed card. And ethic communication is communication that includes all relevant information, is true in every sense, and is not deceptive. And
Hello everyone, it's me Ngọc again. So now I will answer the questions in the case study 1. So in this case study, we just talk about an email bank. So this is the summary of the case study. So
For the questions 1, I agree that an email can be unproductive in the workplace because of three main reasons. The first one is that email provides no overview. The second one is that email can be a waste of time. The third reason is that it can be considered as an antisocial. For the questions 2, I was very surprised by the volume of email on average employee receive daily, because maybe it's just was over my imaginations. I think the challenges of dealing with this volume of emails is that it can bring confusions, and the second one is that it can be lack of transparency. I believe that nowadays many businesses are replaced email by social media through, and this brings a lot of advantages and disadvantages for business. By using social media, there are some benefits such as it can reduce marketing costs, it can increase the sales or have a greater customer engagement, but also there are some possible disadvantages you should be aware of when using social media, such as not having a clear marketing or social media strategy may result in a reduced benefit for your business. And the second one is that social media is immediate and needs daily monitoring. The third one is that risk of unwanted or inappropriate behavior on your site. So in this story, I can see some indications that managers and communications. So in this case story, I can see some indications for managers and communications firm. So the first one is that we have to face a worker who has a lack in communication skill. The second one is that communications is the most important. The third one is that without communications, task achievement will be slowed down.
I'm going to talk about case 2, employee first. And for the summary, HCL is one of the largest technology companies in India. And employee first, that's the most important and crucial cultural values that HCL believes it will take the company into the future. And part of that employee first philosophy is a no layoff policy. Like its competitors, HCL has assessed employees and has suspended raises. But HCL kept its promise and didn't lay off any employees. And it increased the investment in employee development and improved communication through greater transparency. In conclusion, the unique employee first control as HCL technology attract unique employees.
And my impressions is the control can encourage the employees to come up with innovative solutions to operational and business challenges. Also, this may not work in other organizations that have strategy which focus on customer. And I think it would need the employees' behavior and change in basic mission that fit the control. And the CEO can realize not everyone share his personalities and attitude towards work, and the trust base implemented by HCL may motivate some employees who actually like this control, which can lead to increased productivity and higher performance. And I think for the first line managers, when they can gain the understanding among their employees, they can have more opportunity and knowledge to help the employees. And I think HCL's employees are sensitive to change, risk-taking, and they are creative to generate new ideas. These personalities of the employees help to build the HCL's unique control, which can be easily recognized by any people. And these surveys often contain a series of multiple choice items grouped along one or more dimensions of the organization. And the types of the survey can include many concern areas such as creativity, innovation, satisfaction, interpersonal relations, compensation, ability to listen, customer service, and communication. And the results of this type feedback process provide an understanding of how the employee perceives the organization along different.
Hello guys, in chapter 15, I'm talking about understanding and managing individual behaviors.
To begin with, I would like to recommend you the definition, focus, and goals of organizational behaviors. Organizational behavior is the study of action of people at workplace. Like an iceberg, it has a small visible dimension and much larger hidden portions. What we can see includes formal relationship, chains of commands, and structure, but under the surface are insights which influence how the employee behave at work. For example, Tony Levington, the CEO and the founder of e-greetings company, He realized that it shouldn't make a major decision without getting input from his staff, and he reserved the move. Organizational behavior focuses on three major areas. Firstly, it looks at individual behavior, such as the attitude, personality, perception, and motivation. The second one is the group behavior, which emphasizes on the norm, roles, leadership, team buildings, as well as conflicts. And finally, organizational aspect, especially on the culture, human resource policy and practice, and structure. There are 6 important goals identified here: employee productivity, absenteeism, the failure to show up the work, turnover, the voluntary and involuntary permanent withdrawal, job satisfaction, OCB, discretionary behaviors, and workplace misbehavior. Secondly, I will mention about attitude and job performance. So what are the attitudes? Attitudes are evaluative statements, favorable or unfavorable, concerning people, events, and objects. An attitude is made up of 3 components. Cognitive component refers to belief, opinions, and knowledge. Affective components, the emotional feelings part of an attitude, and the last one is the behavioral components, an intention to behave in a certain way towards something or someone. And job satisfaction is the degree which the employee reacts to his or her job. It positively impacts on 6 crucial goals of organizational behavior and help minimize workplace misbehavior. Thirdly, personality. Personality is a unique combination of emotional and behavioral patterns that affects employee interaction and reactions. Here are 2 most well-known approaches to describe personalities. The first one is the MBTI, Myers-Briggs Type Indicators, and the Big 5 models. MBTI measure 4 dimensions: social interaction, preferring for gathering data, referring for decision making and style of decision making. And the second one is also the final one is the Big 5 models, include 5 personality traits: extroversion, agreeableness, conscientiousness, openness, and emotional stability.
I will present the chapter 15, Understanding Managing Individual Behavior, learning object 4, 5, 6.
First, that is learning object 4, that is perceptions, is the process which we give meaning to our environment by organizing and interrupting sensory impressions. And there are a number of factors add to the shape and sometimes distort the perception, including perceiver, target, and situations. Next, we move to the attribution theory. That is a theory used to explain how we judge people differently depending on what meaning we attribute to given behavior. Attribution depends on 3 factors: that is distinctness, conscious, and consistencies. Next, we move to the fundamental attribution error. That is the tendency to underestimate the influence of the external factor and overestimate the influence of the internal factors when making judgment about the behavior of the other. And the second is self-serving bias. That is the tendency of the individual to attribute their success to the internal factor while blaming personal failure on the external factor. We move to the assumed similarity. That is the assumption that others are like oneself. Stereotyping, that is the judging a person on the bias of the perception of the group to which he or she belongs. Finally, there is a halo effect, that is a general impression of an individual based on a single character. We move to the learning object 5, that is learning. Learning is a relative permanent change in the behavior that occurs as a result of the experience. There are two kinds of theory of the learning, that is operant conditioning and social learning. Operant conditioning is a theory of learning that say behavior is a function of its consequence. They are learned by making reward consequent to the behavior. That is a reward likely to be repeated. Behavior that is punished or ignored is less likely to be repeated. Next, that is the social learning theory. There is a theory of the learning that say people can learn through the observation and direct experience. There are some influence that this model have on the individual is determined by four processes. First, attentional processes. Second, retention processes. Third, motor reproduction processes. And finally, the reinforcement processes. We also have the shaping behavior. That is a process of the guiding learning in a graduate step using reinforcement or lack of reinforcement. There are four reinforcement: positive, negative, punishment, and extinction. Finally, we move to the learning object 6. Contemporary issue is the organization behavior. That is a managing generation difference in the workplace. In the Gen Y individual born after 1978, it has bring new attitude to the workplace that is reflect wide a range of the experience and opportunities challenge the staff.
In the final part, attractive teams, the classification to employee first. I really like this term, employee first, because employee satisfaction should be on the top priorities.
I think this model could easily work for all the organization, but for some company it may not work due to the social cultures, size of company, product and service. So redefining the goals of the companies to focus more on employee instead of profit would make it work. Organizational behavior is the key to any CEO's OPs leads to the happier employees and the better job performance. If a leadership is the one who in charge and making decisions, know what is going on throughout the entire companies, that make for a good company. If employees in the same page with the same good, it makes the stable work environment. In my opinion, Mr. Nayer, the operator of the company, displayed the high level of self-esteem and an internal locus of control. As a CEO, his personalities and his perception plays a big part into the values and the goals of the company. To design employee attitude survey for HCL employees, we need to follow these steps. First one, do need analysis, create questionnaire, align questionnaire with the leadership teams, create the online surveys, and test the questionnaire for functionalities. Send the mail invitation, ensure participation through personalized reminders, close the survey to avoid the data dumping, and synthesize the result and present findings as well as act.